Ryan.
Hello, Rachel.
How you doing?
Ooh, I'm feeling magical. That's how I'm doing.
Ooh, you feeling enlightened?
I feel, oh yeah, and I'm feeling that there's a storm coming, Rachel. A dark, black, terrible storm, and a great hand reaching from the stars.
No, there's just some cherry blossoms and some
Orange
blossoms.
Yeah.
See, I like cherry blossoms. That's why I said cherry. But
If
Sheridan grew up near an orange orchard, apparently.
If you were Sheridan in this show, your thing instead of oranges would be cherries. Is that right? You're Miss Cherry. You're a cherry girl. So we are the Yum Yum Podcast, or a Yum Yum Podcast, or Yum Yum Podcast, because of the iconic line of dialogue from Star Trek Discovery, Yum Yum. A line uttered by a character that we didn't know and we never got to know, but when asked an important question, which is, hey, random character, do you want to help kill the antagonist of this season? Remember, modern prestige show, she threw her hair back, licked her lips sexily and replied, yum, yum. And we saw that moment, you and I, Rachel. We saw that and we were blown away and we never let it go. We say it every day. We chant it to ourselves. We look in the mirror, say yum, 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 yum to energize ourselves, to get ourselves through the day. And then we had to name our podcast after it, to immortalize it, to remember it, even more so, to give the yum yum to everyone listening. And we are talking about Babylon 5 currently. We're rewatching it, going through it episode by episode in a heavy spoiler basis. If you have not seen the show, we recommend you do. It's worth the watch. It's a little bit more easily available depending your area. There's a new shiny nice HD remaster. You have no excuses now. Get out of here or you'll be spoiled about technomages, Rachel. Technomages. Before we dive into the actual episode, and we do have a guest here, they're sitting here waiting in the wings. I've got an important question to ask, and I ask it every time, as do you, Rachel. Who in this episode would have said yum yum if written by the Star Trek Discovery writers?
Okay, this is more of an amusement one than a genuine one. I would have loved if when Mbryo's walking down and that monster comes out and the monster says yum yum.
That's a good one. My pick is the green Drazi guy. That guy had massive YYE, what we call yum yum energy. YYE. He was exuding it off the screen. But we'll ask an expert in Yum Yum if they agree with this or not. We have brought in a Yum Yum theologist into the room, somebody who's bathed in the Yum Yum, as well as seen Babylon 5 once or twice in their life. Our former housemate, Mark, is here. Can we all give it up for Mark? Everyone? Including Mark? Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you both?
I am doing well. And Rachel, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Mark, yum yum. Who would have said it in this episode?
I can imagine the technomages reaching out and saying, I sense a great yum yum coming.
That's the perfect person. All of them. All of the technomages in unison.
Yeah, a billion voices crying out at once.
Crying out yum yum all at once.
Yum yum.
So we are talking about the season 2 episode. Season 2. I keep forgetting we're in season 2. Episode 3, The Geometry of Shadows. And Mark, we need to hear from you what the DVD description of this amazing episode is. What does the DVD tell us about this?
So episode 3, The Geometry of Shadows. One Drazi faction wears green, the other wears purple, and both sides wear Ivanova out as she mediates a dispute that emblematic colours ignite. A wizardly techno-mage, Michael and Sarah, brings awesome magic and an ominous prophecy.
Awesome magic and an ominous prophecy. Rachel, did you feel how awesome the magic was?
Yeah.
Did you feel the ominous nature of the prophecy?
Yeah.
Did you feel the yum yum?
Yeah, I felt the yum yum.
Mark, could you tell us all about what your history and relationship is with Babylon 5 as a show? Have you seen this before?
I've seen it before. I watched it a few years ago, and I loved it. It's definitely one of my favorite sci-fi shows of all time.
Why did you watch it, Mark?
I mean, why did you watch it?
I was, I didn't have much choice. I was forced to sit down, and the first episode was put on.
Yep.
And then, you all looked at me and you're like, "What do you think? Did you like it?" And then before I'd opened my mouth, we started watching the second one.
With Soul Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did not make you watch The Gathering.
No, we didn't have it on DVD, but you watched it because we put it on. You were a housemate at the time, and I was Mr. You like sci-fi and fantasy. You should love Babylon 5. Were you at least aware of it before we gave you this wonderful gift that is watching it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd heard of it. It's just, I don't know, like growing up, it was always, watching Star Trek or Doctor Who or Star Wars. Babylon 5 wasn't something that I was aware of was on TV or really talked about that much.
Yeah.
And I guess it's I don't know, compared to those other shows, Babylon 5 is very self-contained. It doesn't have like a lot of spin-offs or...
Yeah, it's not a franchise.
Yeah.
Same
way.
Much,
And it's not easily... It wasn't and hasn't been easily available.
It's not easily available.
It's like, do you want it on DVD? Here you go. Chuck out money for a DVD. And it's really hard to get, so it's even harder to watch. While something like Star Trek, always on TV.
And when we were originally watching it with Mark, they weren't in print DVDs in Australia. We had your parents' old copy.
Yeah, which had been watched so many times it would jitter from time to time. Mark,
Like
you remember those days where we'd have to wait for the DVD to process itself, and you were just like on the edge of your seat, like, what's Londa going to do next? And the DVD's like,
is this going to be the disc that completely fails us?
It never really ever failed us. It was just like waiting for it to get there. It's like, come on, DVD, you can do it. I remember so many times, Mark, you would sit on the edge and you were like pensing up, going like, will it do it? Come on.
There were a few episodes.
We'd chant, come on, DVD, you can do it.
There were a few episodes where we had to stop watching them and then try again the next day.
Give it a little clean.
But we always got there.
So we forced you to watch it, and it was something that you enjoyed. You liked it. You had a good time with it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a fantastic show. And I think because it does feel planned out and self-contained, like everything's leading up to something, it's not just, I don't know, like a lot of modern shows where they just, each season is just like a different thing, and it's like the tone
What can
shifts.
we do now?
Yeah, what can we do now? How can we shake up the status quo?
What would be cool?
What mystery box can we put in the show and never follow on? Yeah, it's that type of thing where it's planned out, and it's... like you said, you grew up with, similar to us, you have your Star Trek, your Star Wars. You're also more of a fantasy guy. When you moved in, you were Mr. I'm walking around with my Tolkien books and all of that stuff. So when you did start watching B5, how did it feel to you in terms of things that were familiar and things that were unfamiliar with the type of show it is and what it was hearkening to and kind of going against as well?
Yeah, I guess one of the shows that did remind me of, sort of in terms of the setting, was Deep Space Nine a little, and it had that sort of darker tone and also the political elements. And it does have, the sort of the, not exactly fantasy, but like the mystic elements, the sort of like the greater light and dark, that sort of conflict.
Yeah, and the ancient beings of yesteryear are coming back again. Oh, the Dark Lord himself. And
like a lot of sci-fi has like the ancient aliens and that sort of thing, but this is sort of really the focus of the show itself, whereas like in Star Trek it might be like one episode ancient aliens who created like all the main species
and then they never mention again
but like Babylon 5, it's very much like this is what the series is about.
Yeah, everything.
And it draws on mythology, like there's that thing where, I don't know, spoilers, like they're like the ancient aliens, like sort of have appeared to most of the cultures that are sort of central to the series as angels throughout their history, guiding them and like sort of influencing their mythology.
And they even there's even a little hinting and reference to that where in this episode where Elric talks about with Sheridan about magic is just technology beyond belief, and he mentions the burning bush could have been a similar type of thing, and you nod your head going, yeah, the Vorlons probably could have been the burning bush for all we knew. I mean, they appear as fucking Archangel Gabriel at one point, so, and they have Jack the Ripper. They do tie upon these ideas of blending mythology, some fantasy ideas, as well as wrapping it all together in a big sci-fi world where we have realistic things we do know. Within this episode, we have silly, random, crazy things like techno mages and holograms and all this kind of stuff, and then it'll just cut back to Ivanova just trying to broker a deal with people who don't want to broker a deal, and you as a person in the modern day world go, yeah, they boil it down to a comedy set piece idea of just colors, but you understand that. You go, yeah. Meanwhile, there's a techno mage. Like, I've never met a techno mage before, but maybe one day we'll become techno mages. So, Rachel, the geometry of shadows. What is your relationship with this particular episode? What do you think about it?
You had hyped this episode up.
Yeah, mainly techno mages. I was like, I want to know what you think.
Yeah, you did that, but you also you hyped up the Drazi plot as well.
It's pretty good.
You were like, Ivanova gets so much fun stuff in this episode.
She gets promoted.
Yes.
She becomes commander.
Mm-hmm.
She gets a pay rise, hopefully. Maybe.
Who knows?
So I hyped it up for you.
Yeah.
How did it live up or not?
It did. It lived up to it. And it's one of those episodes that I love being on the ride with it. It's just good. And it's fun. And it has its dark parts. But it is balancing all of the things that I love about Babylon 5 in one episode. But how about you?
Well, it's a toughie. I like the episode. I've always liked the episode, and I've always loved elements of it. But it is one of those ones where it slips between the cracks for me in my memories of, the great episodes, or the episodes that are really unique and flashy, and all of that stuff. But when I sat down and watched it today, and when I've watched it other times, I'm impressed by how smoothly all of these stories run together and how clever some of the ideas are, or just how funny the Drazi plot is. And it brings back all of the appreciation I've ever had for the episode. But overall, in my history with it, it hasn't left a long-lasting impression other than, the Drazi, they're funny, and they'll be in the show more, and Techno Mages was an idea, and this is just another building block in Londo's destruction of his morality, and that's kind of been my feelings about it. But this is an episode I do love to test people with, evidently with you and with you, Mark, as well, where what are they going to think about this episode? There are just some of those ones where if there's a person I know and I know what type of tastes they have, this is a good tester of their palate. And with you, Mark, you are somebody I was really keen on getting their thoughts on with this back in the day and with now, because you're a writer, you're an artist, you work in that kind of stuff, and you have your interest in science fiction, but also in fantasy, and stuff like the techno-mage idea that's at the center of this is one of those things where I always felt like this is something Mark would have come up with if Babylon 5 didn't think of it before, because you like blending things together in your art and in your writing, or like you like that kind of thing overall. Like has been the feelings I've gotten over with you through the years. Do you want to kind of touch upon that, and like how do you feel about this episode? What's been your relationship with it?
I think like you said, like it's an episode that's not in itself like super memorable, but I think the idea of the techno major is something that you remember throughout the whole show, even though they only appear in this one episode. And like that idea sticks with you, and I like the idea. I think they have a really cool look and a cool sort of vibe, and I love when Vier is like walking to meet them when he's in that corridor, and there's like the glowing symbols on the wall. There's that sort of occult feel. I feel like in the 90s, they would have been very cool.
Yeah.
Looking at nowadays, they sort of give off we're special effects artists vibe.
Yeah.
That like, like the technology they're described as they use technology to create the effect of magic. But I think just like from our, like this modern point of view we have of technology, there's nothing they're doing that's particularly remarkable.
Well, they put little creatures on Londo's back that evidently made his room smell. I don't know how they did that. I don't know holograms do that. That's pretty cool, though.
That is true.
But yeah, you're saying, like, in a way, there's a dated feel to it. But also
exactly.
But it's still unique, right? There's still feel of like, oh.
To the show, definitely.
Yeah, to the show. Like, have you seen other things kind of have this similar idea over the years of the classic technology is magic? I mean, Doctor Who does that, but Doctor Who's far more like, no, just magic, basically. Like, what do you think about that general concept of
I think it's quite common nowadays. Like, I think the first Thor movie really sort of lent into that, like, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
And you know who wrote the first Thor movie? JMS, the creator of Babylon 5.
Well, there you go.
He reuses these ideas, huh?
Yeah, I think that's sort of what a lot of people would know it from. That's sort of a lot more mainstream.
But when revisiting it today for myself, the geometry of shadows, what I really took note of was how the storylines blurred together in the episode. We've had issues with Babylon 5 thus far with having plots just next to each other, but these were on top and weaving together, in which I no longer thought about how the writing structure made this work. It just felt like this was a living, breathing thing that I was a part of for 45 minutes. I never thought when watching it, yes, JMS had to write this so that this would happen here and blah, 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 and the themes are mirroring each other in this way. I sat down and I just watched it, and I felt that I was transported onto Babylon 5 and was watching a series of events that happened with one another over the... And this is another thing. I felt the time elapse in the episode. I felt each hour and each day that was in the story happening. And rarely do you ever feel that in an actual episode of TV. Rarely do you feel, oh yeah, earlier that day Londo wanted Via to do this, and then by the end of it he's having to apologize for having done all of this. That's something to commend, and it also says the pacing of the episode. Never a slow moment for myself. The slowest scene is Sheridan and the Techno Mage, probably, and it's like, yeah, it has to be, because that character, Elric, is a very poetic guy. You're not going to make him rush through lines of dialogue and be fast. You're going to have him just slowly walk around and give him an orange blossom, and then that's it. Rachel, what was it like for you coming back here? This is an episode we often joke about between ourselves of green or purple and all of that.
Yeah, well, I was just about to say that it's almost time for that ceremony to start.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
So we're going to need to pick purple or green.
Mark, purple or green? Which is the side you go with?
But do I get to choose? Like,
oh yeah, you have to pick them at random, of course. But in all fairness, like, who would you go with? The purple or the green? I know it's tough.
Yeah, like they both have really strong sort of like moral positions. You know, I can see the merits to both sides.
Yeah, I know it's tough. You're gonna have to.
It's purple, people. It's purple.
Oh, Mark, where do you land? Purple? Are you on Rachel's side?
Look, I get the choice, like, you know.
That means no. You're a green boy.
Of course.
We're green.
Green to the death.
Green?
You would plan a genocide.
Green is the obvious option, Rachel.
Oh, fuck off.
Green is the choice. It's obviously green for many reasons. They have good
I have no reservations saying that both of you would be perfectly fine with just going, we're just going to set them up and space the fuckers.
Rachel, how dare you walk in here?
Hey, you sided with Garibaldi in the spacing issues before.
No, I said I appreciated that he wanted to do that because it's his character. No, excuse me.
You wanted to.
How dare you walk in here and accuse the Polish person of wanting to commit genocide?
Such a purple thing to do.
I was accusing
That's such
Mark.
a purple attitude. That's such a purple attitude.
Mark, not you.
You put me in that camp where green.
No, sorry.
We have good policies. We have good policies. We have a great leader. Her name's Ivanova.
Green, you know what I'd say.
The real reason I picked green.
Hey, but everybody becomes fucking purple in the end, so suck that.
Because our leader made that happen. Ivanova. Our leader, Ivanova. No, real reason why I picked green is I love that actor. The guy who plays the green Drazi is one of my favorite alien performances.
He's great.
I love his face. The way he enunciates his words and really exaggerates the face so that he can act through the makeup. He knows how to act through the makeup. The makeup is so hard because you could be trapped with just one expression on your face. You can't do it.
I feel like he's one
face.
of those actors that they kept on using and he's just gotten better and better at it.
Yeah. And they
were like, oh, we'll actually give him something to do.
He's always been one of those actors who plays multiple aliens in the show. He's played a Narn, he's played so many, and he will go on to be so many. But this is an episode, probably the first, where they put a major spotlight on him and let him truly
put on... So he's our actor spotlight?
No. Where they let him put on a performance for us. And I really loved him, and that's why I picked green, mainly because that guy, especially where he's explaining why they fight over colors and how he tries to negotiate with Ivanova about how we should kill all of the purple and how he used her codes and all of this stuff. I love that performance. I love this plot because it's stupid. There's no pretending it's smarter than what it is. It is just unabashedly, I wanted to write a fun plot. And that's okay. You can have fun plots. Maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I enjoy that this episode's plot isn't trying to be heady or deep. Yeah, it's just saying, hey, they fight each other because of these colors, and they try to make a parallel with it, but then Ivanova shoots it down within 2 seconds because that parallel's stupid.
I love that this becomes a thing as well, of Ivanova getting these it's the jobs that Sheridan doesn't want to fucking deal with.
Sheridan's a great boss.
The weird ambassador shit. It's just like, let Ivanova deal with it. Oh, these people want to fuck to seal the deal? Give it to Ivanova.
Give it to Ivanova. I don't want to do that. I love this Drazi plot because, yeah, it's just silly. It's not... They make the connection at the end. But it's just like,
yes, weird shit exists in cultures. And
yep.
I fucking love the justification of like, oh, it's caught, like the rule changes are caught up in committee.
Yeah, bureaucracy, am I right?
How long have the Drazi been a spacefaring race?
Yeah.
And that still hasn't gone through. Because, like, they're not new to this rodeo. Like, the Drazi have an established enough presence.
They're a military force.
They're part of, like, the League of Non-Aligned Worlds.
They're like the head guys.
They're, like, they're heavily involved in Babylon 5 and intergalactic policies. But they still haven't managed to change this one rule to specifically say that it has to be a Drazi that's the leader and that's involved in this.
See, Rachel, what you're getting caught up in is purple is bad and green rules. And that's the core reason why this works. Is one of the things that could fall apart here is...
You're wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong. One of the things...
You are wrong.
If this story was taken far more seriously but still kept a comedic leaning to it, this could fall on its face as being derogatory or mocking of cultural values. Because it's like, aren't cultures that aren't mine, aren't they weird and stupid? But since to me, the episode never tries to go that extra layer, that doesn't apply as much because it's not trying to be a 3-dimensional plot. It is just simply, isn't it funny if Ivanova had to deal with some crazy aliens And that's the plot. Isn't it funny that the most...
You're never afraid for her life when she's gotten kidnapped.
When she's having to talk to them and they just keep reiterating, but purple bad. It's just funny. Mark,
green.
This is one of the more memorable B plots. Even you must remember this, right? After all of these years.
Of
course. So what was it like to see these guys again?
I think they're fun. They're an interesting concept. I like I said before, like the Drazi as a people, it does feel like they've been a bit copy pasted. Like, I guess that's the point. Like, like the differences between them are like green or purple.
Yeah. And that's it.
There were one Drazi, there now are two.
Yeah, and they have to fight until the strong live, and then they're one again, which is interesting when you tie it in with the overall themes of the show, where the shadows mentality as a culture and ideology is the strong survive, chaos absolutely apply it, destroy, and then we rebuild being strong, and then we're one strong independent being again. And the Drazi have their own weird little version of that, where it's just as arbitrary and just as random as the shadows, where it's chaotic and weird. It's like they don't choose to be purple or green. Yeah, they just choose it randomly, and then somebody's the leader. Okay, and then that person takes it, and then they're the leader. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Hence, they escalate to murder, because they do put a rhyme and reason to it, which is if we eradicate the other one, then there'll be a winner.
All right, then what?
Then, when all purple Drazi in one place, open hatch to space, flush oxygen, vacuum, purple Drazi cannot breathe, all purple Drazi die. Station is quiet again. No more fighting. Green Drazi win. You win. Everybody win.
The Drazi are stupid and annoying, but they're not stupidly annoying where you as a viewer roll your eyes and go, oh, shut the fuck up, you idiots. Like we do with Star Trek. Mark, I mean, how many episodes of Star Trek are there where it will be like, and now the space Irish come on the ship with their goats, or oh no, the hippies have taken over the spaceship and they're calling us Herberts, and you react to it like, oh, I can't believe our specialist characters are having to be interacting with these people and they're being overthrown and outsmarted, or we're having to sit down for 45 minutes and watch a bunch of fucking idiotic aliens run around in a plot. How come this isn't like that? How come it doesn't aggravate? How come it doesn't overstay its welcome for you?
I think like you were saying before, because it's not just a random thing, like it ties into sort of the overall sort of themes that come into the show about conflict and about this survival of the fittest sort of mentality, particularly as we're sort of dealing with this early presence of the shadows sort of through Londo, and then like the techno major's warning of this storm, like this, I think the Drazi, their sort of civil war, I guess if you can call it that.
Yeah.
Their purge. It's really just like a microcosm of like this sort of arbitrary like fighting that's like there's no real reason for it. It is just for the sake of fighting.
Yeah.
And to prove like strength rather than like any sort of moral ideology.
Yeah, there's no code, there's no honor, there's no what Ivanova says, all the reasons what we put to the flag.
Something that I want to bring up is that justification and that understanding of like we put values towards our flag is one of the major reasons why Ivanova is so certain to side with Sheridan, to side with Babylon 5 in the civil war against Earth.
Of course. Yeah, Mark's completely right. It ties into these grander themes, and it does it in this way where it's not obvious and it's silly. It's still like a silly little thing, but it matters. It is a little seed that's being planted in this forest that is going to be the grand ideologies of our antagonists in the show. So when you do come back, you see, these god races that have been manipulating us and tinkering with us, those things have rippled and just naturally become. So yeah, the Drazi fight each other for no reason, just like the Shadows and the Vorlons fight each other for no reason. They don't remember what their argument is even really about anymore, other than we need to prove we're right. Right about what? Get the hell out of our galaxy.
If you cut this plot, it actually matters.
And it's just they don't linger on it too much. This isn't this isn't an actual proper B plot. It is just a little thing happening. If this was...
It's part of what's happening on the station. It's part of building that time and
this was
the
main,
context.
If this was the main plot, it would be stupid. It would be annoying. You would roll your eyes and go, "Shut the fuck up!"
Why
really?
do we keep on cutting back to this?
Really, we've seen Babylon 5 deal with war criminals. We've seen them dealing with so many other things. What, you're going to tell me the main plot would be this race of people fight over colors? That would be incredibly annoying. But since it's a little side thing here, and it's just being funny, it's not trying to be deep. And again, they do this thing at the end where Ivanova tries to do what other shows would do, where they try to put a little, hey audience, this is what we're putting meaning to here, where Ivanova tries to do this is tying back to flags, huh? Where we fight over, really, us humans? We fight over nothing too, huh? Flags mean nothing, but I love that the Drazi and Ivanova put that down, only for Ivanova, aka JMS, to just grab that and throw it in the fucking trash immediately and say, no, that's not what this is about. This is just being silly. This is all this is. We're not, like, Ivanova immediately shoots down this concept of what Star Trek would do, what Battlestar Galactica would do as well, where it would be, really, purple? Isn't that the American flag? It's kind of useless, isn't it? Like, it means actually nothing. We're fighting over nothing. Aren't we a destructive culture?
Yeah, we were the Drazi all along.
Yeah, we were the Drazi. We're not so different, you and I. That type of deal. Instead, Ivanova gives reasons why we put meaning into the flag, and the Drazi are just like, yeah, well, we don't do that here. We just fight because. And since they're aliens, you have, as a viewer, as a sci-fi viewer, you have that extra layer of suspension of disbelief, because you just go, yeah, they're aliens. It's just, sometimes aliens are just alien. They just do random shit because, and sometimes it's stupid. Just like it here. It's stupid. It's just as stupid as all of these things that the Centauri do. Like, oh yeah, Centauri have their religious festival in which they just get hammered. Like, that's funny because they're funny, and that's all you need. There's no deep meaning to it. The Drazi plot gets concluded by having Garibaldi come into it, where Garibaldi throughout this episode is having a crisis of identity and of purpose. He has been betrayed. His second in charge shot him in the back. He wasn't even aware that his second in charge, his right-hand man, was somebody to worry about. And as chief of security, Mr. Garibaldi, who's one of the most paranoid men in all of existence, it just rattles him to his core that he couldn't see it. And he doesn't know if he's right for the job anymore, if he needs to be here. And he comes in at the end of the Drazi plot after realizing and finding his purpose. He comes in Garibaldi fashion, where he makes a bunch of Looney Tunes references, and he acts like Bugs Bunny himself or Daffy Duck, and he just comes in like, hello, I'm a salesman, and do you have any ladies in here? Like, I want to see
I'm looking for the lady of the house.
I got an Acme thing here, and you're like, yes, he loves Daffy Duck. I'll never forget that he loves Duck Dodgers. Okay, and it's Garibaldi again, because in the episode, Garibaldi's Mr. Angsty. He's Mr. I'm loading my PPG and then unloading it and then loading it again and then unloading it. And then Sheridan comes in and says, hey, buddy, chip her up, be good. And Garibaldi's like, okay. He's a bit angsty emo. I don't know what to do with myself, Franklin. And then by the end, he's Mr. Funny, telling jokes, being wacky, getting into fights, and he's back in the game of being Garibaldi.
Yeah, but it's also really reaffirming and building up his anxiety and suspicions and his distrust of Sheridan.
Yeah, because he doesn't know him. He's like, my best friend Sinclair was my boss, and now he's gone mysteriously, and now you're in charge, and you're the greatest hero of Earth because you destroyed the Mbryo cruiser. And it's like, are you a good person? I don't know you, and I don't even know who my right-hand man was. Do I even need to be here? Am I useless? Am I obsolete? Am I
Is
bad?
somebody else right for this job? Because I don't know if I'm the one to do this anymore.
When you're writing a big story, and you have, say, in season 1, the cliffhanger is Garibaldi gets shot by his own right-hand man, and then naturally you bring him back, and you would, as a writer, want to milk that for all of its worth, where Garibaldi has an inner turmoil where he has to find himself, and the new captain, he doesn't know him, so he's going to be antagonistic towards him because he doesn't trust him because his best friend used to be in charge. Other shows and other writers would milk that for so much, make this over episodes, several episodes worth of exploration and drawing it out and getting all those juicy scenes of Garibaldi being angsty or angry or snarky. It's just here in this one episode. And by the end of it, he resolves by being back to the character we knew him to be, having a much more friendly relationship with Sheridan. But I like how its resolution isn't necessarily throwing that away, where it's not saying...
It doesn't dissolve, it just resolves.
It resolves, but it doesn't throw it away in terms of... It doesn't shortchange you, because what he has learned is, no, me being a paranoid fucko is actually a good thing.
That's what makes me good at my job.
And that's a character trait and or flaw that will sustain itself as the show goes along. So although he has found his purpose again, the way he's found his purpose again is something you can explore in a show. That's what you explore. It's not angry Garibaldi or Garibaldi lovelorn or Garibaldi, I don't know if I should be in my job anymore. It's Garibaldi is a paranoid man, and that is what you explore in his show.
Yeah, and then like his plot resolves not because he learns to stop being paranoid, but because he is paranoid.
Yeah, and it reaffirms that. And we'll see in season 4, when Garibaldi is turning against all of his friends, the reason he does that is because Mr. Bester, all he needed to do was adjust that aspect of his personality and turn it up to 10. He didn't need to program him with a new one. He just had to turn up this dial, which has been reaffirmed in this episode. How do you feel about that, Mark, where Garibaldi is going through this identity crisis, and at the end it feels all like chipper, yay, I'm back, I'm man in charge, but his ending result is, yeah, I just have to be more paranoid and more looking over my shoulder and more judgmental of people. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I felt like for the episode, Garibaldi sort of was the audience sort of, coming to Sheridan, who's like this new captain, the new character. Like, I feel like Sinclair was very memorable in a lot of ways, and like he's throughout the show again. And so, you got this new captain. Garibaldi is sort of expressing, I guess, like a lot of what the audience would be feeling.
Yeah, concern, like, who are you? I don't know who you are. What's your deal? So he's concerned about that throughout the episode. Yeah, and he's like going through this in the episode of like figuring out a little bit.
And then like sort of as it progresses and, as it resolves and he's like, yeah, need to be paranoid. I guess that's sort of like, that's how you're supposed to feel about this universe. You're supposed to be, you shouldn't trust like the government. Yeah, the governments or the shadows or the Vorlons or, the Earth Centauri. Yeah. Like, you should be cautious, like, because, you're on a little speck floating in the void. Yeah. And, like, I guess, like, Garibaldi's attitude that, like, sure, he, like, accepts Sheridan, but he doesn't necessarily, let his guard down. Like, it's not a safe universe.
And for a character, obvious things in your show, when you're writing a character and you give them a profession, you try to make sure that their personality and themes match that profession. Doctor, empathetic person. Done, right? Security guy, Mr. I'm always watching everything closely and knowing the details, and for Garibaldi, being the guy who is never trusting of anyone unless he knows the facts himself. That's his profession. That's what he has to do. So you write that as a key character trait. And in a universe in which you have to have that, have to rely on that as well as his job, it reaffirms that, this is a positive ending in the story here, in this episode, in the singular episode. Oh, good, Garibaldi's back to where he was, and when he makes it, it feels funny when he's at the dinner table, and he's just like, yeah, so I knew of Ivanova because of this, and my lesson of the episode is to never trust anything ever unless I know for a fact. And you kind of feel warmed up like, yeah, that's the right lesson here, Garibaldi. And because that's how the show is. The show is like that. But we see that bites him in the ass so many times in the show because that's also a negative aspect to your life. You can't live your life distrusting everything. It's not X-Files where the truth is out there. Watch out.
So much mental energy needed to do that.
Yeah, and can you form real long-lasting relationships with people if you are how Garibaldi learns to be at the end of this?
Hey, he trusts Lou.
Me and the rest of the guys were wondering, when are you going to come back on duty? Look, we bought a cake, all right? Been sitting there for 2 days now.
Are you kidding me? You pass up a cake for 2 days? What's the deal? What have you done with the real Lou Welch, huh? Hey, security over here. We got another guy with a changeling net.
I want to ask a very important question. It's a big question. Is Sheridan a good boss?
I think the point of like his role in this episode is not necessarily to do anything. It's to bring out, what other characters need to do. He's the one who motivates Ivanova and Garibaldi.
Yeah, he's being the boss in the episode without being the protagonist of the episode.
Yeah.
He's being the boss.
Which makes him feel very different than Sinclair, because Sinclair wouldn't have delegated.
Okay, that's interesting. I disagree with you, but I want
to clarify. I think if there was something more important on, he would delegate the Drazi stuff. But I don't think at the point that we left off Sinclair that he would have felt comfortable giving this over. I think there's a reason that Sinclair's the one that pushes through the paperwork and gets Ivanova promoted.
You mean Sheridan?
Sheridan.
I know, we're going to keep doing that for a little bit. Interesting takes here. I think he's a good boss, but I think he's an annoying boss because I'm thinking of me as an employee and I'm doing work. And then Sheridan comes over and be like, hey, buddy, I love you, man. Hey, you doing okay? Hey, you know what? Here's a promotion for you. I'm glad that you're having a good time. Want some orange juice? I'm loving orange juice. You got to have the pulp in. And then, actually, I've got this thing that I want to give to you because I don't want to do it. I describe him as...
He never fully says that.
No, but you know it.
We know.
We know his attitude.
And I just want to give the episode credit for that because the writing and the acting
is great.
Does that.
But what I was going to say is, here's how I would describe him in this episode as a boss. I would describe him as aloof, erudite, and wily.
Laissez-faire.
While Sinclair as a boss, I would prefer him as a boss because he was very much inspirational. So he would tell you directly, I want you to do this job. It didn't feel as if he didn't want to do it and he gave it to you. It felt like he knew that you could do this and he wanted to inspire you.
Right person.
And he wanted to trust your abilities to do it. While here, and I'm not Sheridan, I love him and I love Bruce Boxleitner's performance. He's so fun, but it really does feel he's this guy who's just like, geez, I've been assigned to this and I don't really know how to do all of it, and I don't really know what to do, and I don't want to.
An ambassador, like
he's not a diplomatic person.
Yeah,
he's a military man. He's a captain, and I would find him as a boss to be annoying, but I would like him as a person. Is that the great way to describe it? We've had these type of people, right, where these co-workers are bosses, where you hate them as fellow employees or bosses, but you like them as a person. You're like, I like Sheridan. I would want to hang out with him, but when he would come up to me with that smile, we all saw it in the episode. You, realistically, Mark, if he came up to you in your office with that smile saddling up to you,
I'd be like, no, I'm very busy. Like, oh, look at all this paperwork I've got.
Look, I've got a calendar. It's filled with notes. I can't do it, Sheridan. And you'll be like, but Mark,
I believe in you.
Mark, and he's pouring an orange juice for you. Do you want some ice on that, buddy? And you're like, oh, no. He goes, no, come on, gotta try with some pulp as well. And you'd be compelled to do it, but you would be like, another thing on the plate. I don't know. I wanted to bring this up because this is us getting used to Sheridan as a character, as a captain, and as a person who engages with other command staff characters. Garibaldi, that's his plot, is getting used to Sheridan, and as you said, Mark, he's audience surrogate in that manner. And I wanted to get your feels of what you thought of Sheridan in this particular episode, in general, of being a boss and just being a character. We like Sinclair a lot in that first season, and I've talked about previously that I have had, when I first watched this, I've had a very troublesome relationship with Sheridan. It took me a while to get on board the Sheridan train. What about yourself, Mark?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I do, like, on my first watch, like, you know, we get used to Sinclair and the way he does things, and sort of like suddenly he's gone. And it's weird because you sort of, I feel like those early episodes with Sheridan, it's sort of, you're just sort of waiting for Sinclair to come back. You're like, yeah, okay, Sheridan, whatever.
He's not really gone.
Yeah. But then I feel like, you know, maybe not so much in this episode. In this episode, he's not the protagonist, you know, but like he's sort of, he's there to show that like what other characters can do, I guess. Yeah.
And to kind of show off to them in minor ways, and to us, I'm a good guy. Hey, Garibaldi, I'll hold your spot for you as long as I can. And he wants to be inspiring to others.
He doesn't want to come in and just change things.
Yeah. He's not an ass. He's not just coming in being like, all right, I need you to... He's not Captain Jellicoe in Star Trek The Next Generation, the captain that took over the Enterprise when Picard was getting tortured by the Cardassians, where he's like, Riker, I need 4 shifts now, and you're working this, and I need... Deanna Troy, wear a fucking uniform! He's not like that, but he does want to shift things around, and I like the guy. I do. I think Bruce Leitner as a performer, he's just charming. You just see him and you go, yeah. And that was something I was annoyed about with him as a character, because Sinclair was just a normal guy, and then they brought in this handsome, pretty boy who was in Tron, and he's so Mr. I'm everybody's friend, and I looked at that as a falsehood. I went, I don't like this. You're trying to It reminded me, and I've said this before, when David Tennant came into Doctor Who after Christopher Eccleston. It's like, oh, we got the pretty boy Doctor where now he can kiss people. Okay. Whatever. It took me a while to buy Sheridan, but in this episode, this was definitely one of the ones that warmed me up to him, because, gosh darn it, I do want some orange juice with pulp in it, Sheridan.
Besides, added responsibility comes with any promotion. I know it's annoying and inconvenient, but...
Did you say promotion?
Yes, would you like some juice? It's fresh from the hydroponic garden. I told him to leave the pulp in. That's the best part. Don't you think, Commander?
What was it like to revisit Londo after all these years? Was he as complicated, funny, and sad as you remembered him being?
Oh, definitely. I think, you know, Londo is the character you remember. And, you know, he is sort of like, you know, one of the standout things of the show that you remember. Like, I don't know, some of the other characters like Delenn or the Nan, like Jakar, yes. Then I feel like looking back, they're less memorable, like not just in terms of like their character, but they're like their design. Like Londo is outrageous, and he is, you know, I don't know. At times, like he felt like he's a comedic character, even though he's like, you know, really tragic, and you know, he does stand out from the other characters in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's interesting to say that, because when we watched it back in the day, you were Team Jakar. You love that guy. And I guess it's also because he's not in this episode to remind you of how great he is. But Londo is a very overt character of going from funny guy to sad guy, while Jakar was angry guy to calm.
Yeah, and I definitely like Jakar. Like, he's definitely one of my favorite characters. I think Londo really, like, stands out. Like, not necessarily as, like, you know, your favorite character, but, like, just as a presence.
Yeah, he has a definite presence to him. And he's wheeling and dealing straight up. I love the opening with him where it's this wide shot and Reefa's walking around his quarters and it starts panning in and you're watching that Veer is cutting and combing his hair as he's looking into a little hand mirror. And that image tells you everything you need to know about what Londo's going to be like in this episode, which is arrogant. He's going to be very pompous. He's going to be very power-hungry.
Concerned with his image over anything
and
else.
He's had his victory as well, like with the destruction of the Nine Outpost. Yeah. Like he's in that mood where he knows he's going places. Like he's ready to be like fucking emperor.
Yeah, he's ready to overthrow. He's ready to play the Game of Thrones.
It would be so bad if they thought of me in the same way as the first emperor. Like, that wouldn't be so bad.
We love Londo because he's a self-destructive character that you wish wouldn't be that way. And Reefer's here, first episode with Lord Reefer, and we all love Lord Reefer. He's a fun character. He's one of the only other actors to try the accent. It's not as good as Londo's, but he tries, and I appreciate that he put in the effort. It was great to see him. He's slimy here. He's tempting Londo to do all of these horrible things. I love how he talks about the Emperor. He's just straight up like this old, pathetic idiot Emperor who's going to die soon, and he has no son, so we got to fill up that vacuum of power. Londo,
okay,
will you be there to support me? I love that. Wait. I love that he is coming up to the guy who's making all of this happen in the first place and asking Londo, the guy with the unknown army and all of the stuff that's making this vacuum happen. He comes to Londo and says, will you support me?
Yeah.
It says all you need to know about Reefer as well, though. He thinks he's the alpha in the room.
Yeah. You got that power somehow when I want to be with it. But we all agree that Reefer's syndicate of sorts is responsible for the death of the Emperor's son, right?
I don't know. I think he has associates of his own. I like that everyone has associates. That's how you know you're in good company, when you have friends in high places saying, my associates will take care of this. That's how you know you're in a good place in life.
So you don't think that you think that it was unrelated?
I never thought about it, actually, but you're raising it. It could be. He's a slimy guy.
Mark?
I doubt anything's unrelated on this, on their world, you know, like I don't believe anything on Centauri Prime happens accidentally. Or if it does, like there's going to be like, 20 people there being like, oh, maybe it was me. Maybe I did this.
Maybe. I would like to say that we are part of the appeal of Londo's character on a rewatch and just in general. When you know his destruction, you rewatch it going, no, don't. I like you. Don't do this. This is one of the few episodes, though, where I was so happy watching him be the powerful politician in the room who's manipulating and trying to connive his way. I love Peter Jurassic's performance.
Fails at it, and
he's a boob.
Fun.
But when he's succeeding at it, when he's with Reefer at the beginning, I don't often say this, but it did feel very Game of Thronesy. This is obviously before the show Game of Thrones, but that political thing where he's so comfortable, and Peter Jurassic as Londo, he knows how to play the comedy, like you said, but he knows how to play the tragedy. But here, he knows how to play, this is my element. I'm in my fucking... There's a reason why I'm an ambassador. I have been a career politician, and he relishes those scenes. And even when he's a boob, when he gets outed by the techno mage, he doesn't play it stupidly comedic. He plays it at the right level where it doesn't make Londo just a joke. But then he has his funny scenes, like the scenes in which he's talking to Veer and he's just, Londo. He does all of that stuff. He's still very good. But I like seeing slimy politician Londo. Rachel, you're like me when you rewatch this. You want him not to do those horrible things, but at the same time,
because you know that there is always that slither of goodness that stays. Like it waxes and wanes, but there's always that little bit of hope that you hold out for Londo.
But the Technomage says, nah, he'll play out, man, and you'll fuck up.
Like,
and if I warn you won't change.
You will lean into this. And I think that's powerful in a different way when you have like that extra bit of information of like the techno mages used to be influenced or sided with the shadows.
Yeah, I think another important thing in overall Londo's journey is Morden and the Shadows and Reefer and all these people are handing Londo the keys to the car of power. But it isn't just Londo is just this hapless guy who gets drunk on power and everyone's giving it to him. Once they give it to him, we see it in this episode. His brain starts clicking into gear and he knows exactly what buttons to press to get what he wants. It isn't, he's competent. He's supremely skilled at doing this, and yet throughout his life he's never been given the opportunity to do this in the way that he's doing it now, and that will be the path of his destruction. It is, he should not be doing this, but boy is he good at it.
When we heard that you would personally take care of the problem, well...
Yes, I'm sure it sounded quite absurd.
More like insane. But then the monitors went silent. Spy probe sent in later confirmed that the entire Narn outpost had been wiped out. I would be very interested to know how you did that, Ambassador.
Yes, I'm sure that you won't.
Very well. Keep your secrets for now.
I just really want to commend Stephen First's performance here. He has really stepped up his game, and they've allowed him to step it up more. He's always been great as Veer, but this is our first real juicy Veer episode since season 2 started, and the way he plays Veer is less broadly comedic as it was in comparison to where we saw him in Chrysalis. But
broadly comedic needs to be the specific turn of phrase, because he's still comedic.
There's more of a nuance here, and it isn't necessarily a night and day comparison, but it is that thing of the actor and the writing has understood an element of this character that was inherent within them, and they've fleshed it out more. So he's doing less comedic walking, like he's big over, and less gestures in this overt way, and he's playing less of the bumbling fat guy and more of, he's still bumbling, but he has more agency here. The classic scene of him going up to the techno mages and just standing in place and refusing to go because he works for Ambassador Londo Malari and nothing worries or phases. He's just, this is my life now. And he has his set of rules that he follows. When he does hear the techno mages out, he relays that to Londo. He's the messenger boy, but he really means it. Like, no, Londo, some of these things that you hold dear don't matter to other people. And Londo doesn't hear it. He's the voice of reason in the show, and no one listens to Veer until it's too late.
Yeah, like, even Londo, like, you know, he's not alone. Like, I don't recall anybody really listening to Veer, even when he's trying to help them.
Yeah, he's a great character, and this episode really gives him more to be, because if he was just his season 1 character and they never fleshed it out more, he'd just be, the funny guy character. You need him to be more than just the funny guy character. So making him Londo's angel on his shoulder that Londo ignores, what a great dynamic to have, because the other attachés are on the same wavelength as their ambassadors. Lanier loves Delenn, and Natoth is just female Jakar. But Veer...
Kosh is on his own.
But then Veer, he opposes Londo. He doesn't agree with him. He doesn't have the same ideology. He doesn't have the same belief system. He's a young guy, and he has a different point of view. And this is a part of that ongoing journey with him, because when I said Veer, Mark, you had a big smile on your face, because Veer's just one of those characters you look back on and go, he was nice. I like that guy. He's just fun. He's a good character.
Yeah. The scene I really remember with Veer is when he explains how Centauri have sex.
Yes. They have sex.
Yeah, and he's only gotten second base.
Oh, second tentacle.
Don't you remember what he wanted from Mr. Morden? That's an iconic scene in which he dedicates a whole monologue and saying, "I would rather see your head on a pike,"
and give it a little wave.
And then he gets that in the end.
And it's so good.
That's memorable. But I liked Veer here. I just wanted to give him a shout out, because Rachel, he's one of our favorite characters, yet he hasn't been getting much to do, and now he will be getting more to do. And it's
so clear who Veer is.
Yeah.
And he really gets to show you who he is as a whole person, as a whole character in this episode, and it's just wonderful.
The way I would describe it is he's moving beyond Londo's shadow, because in the first season and in this episode, he's the little nervy guy behind Londo's bravado and gusto. But now he's putting his foot out, and eventually he'll stand fully out of this and have a fully defined character within the world and within us as audiences, as the viewer. And I think that's really awesome. I like him a lot, and He just was funny. I liked his when he drank alcohol, and then he fainted immediately, like this cartoon vaudeville faint.
In my mind, it's like Londo has built up such a tolerance that it's just so extreme.
V is a teetotaler. That's what he is. He's just a young man. He's only had 2. He hasn't gone the full 6 bases yet. Londo, we're talking about him a lot as well. His whole plot is he wants to see he wants an audience for the Technomage
to get an endorsement so that he gets even more political power back at home, and that it also
solidifies his place in the system more.
In the system, but also specifically in the eyes of Reefer.
Yes, and the old guard of he's following these old traditions, and and the Technomages don't want that. They don't give a shit about that. They're leaving. They don't care. And Londo tries.
They will not play into it.
Yeah, and Londo gets fucked up by them in silly and fun ways. I love the scene in which Narn opera is playing in his quarters.
He gets spoo shares.
He gets spoo ranches. I also appreciate that Veer doesn't like the Narn opera. It's not just Londo being a bigot, it's also Veer.
What is this disgusting, ugly noises?
And Veer holding his fingers to his temples going, it's horrible, like, ugh, and you just hear it in the background, and it's just this warbling noise that they keep playing. And seeing Londo get his own but in a funny way is also great, because Londo is still somewhat a funny character, so seeing him get punished in a humorous way kind of keeps building up in us as an audience that Londo's a funny character. So then by the end of this episode, when Elric gives him what he wants, an audience, and tells him, oh, I see a great hand reaching from the stars. It's your hand, and there's going to be billions of people calling your name. My followers? Your victims. It sends a bit of a chill down your spine, because you go, what do you mean? No. Londo? But he's a funny guy. You put goblins on his back a moment ago, and he's saying, no, they put an equation spell on my accounts. He can't be a guy that's responsible for the death of billions, right?
Already responsible for at least 10,000.
Not billions.
And also, like, we kind of know that there's not billions of Narn, so we know that he's going to impact other races.
He impacts many people.
And he does. He does. He gets his grimy hands over many planets, including his own.
As I look at you, Ambassador Mallory, I see a great hand reaching out of the stars. The hand is your hand. And I hear sounds. The sounds of billions of people calling your name.
My followers?
Your victims.
The question that I think is on everybody's lips. We've already touched on them. But are Technomages cool?
I think, there are things about them that are cool, that are interesting. I feel like I like their sort of their role in this episode. Like, they're leaving, and I feel like, as you watch the show and sort of see how things progress, and you come back to this, it's an interesting response. Like, everyone else tries to, like, they try and fight the shadows, or they try to deal with the shadows, or they try and work it in some way. Whereas the Technomages, their response is to just leave.
Yeah. We would rather just leave.
I love the little, like, I don't know, like, the touch. This could feel very Hamney, like, we're just going to stick this in, that the Centauri used to have Technomages.
Yeah, and they are of a cultural importance to them. Yeah. They are maybe of even religious importance to them.
And I never really think of them as being a part of the first ones, but they are.
Yeah, they're servants, or they're connected to them in ways that we don't fully understand, but they are. And they're a sect of people. They're not just this race. Like, this guy's a human guy. He's just a human. How did he become a techno? How did he become a techno?
I thought Londo says that they look human.
Oh, really? I guess so. He just looks like a guy.
I thought that's what, like, he says, like, when they're, he's really trying to count how many techno mages are coming through, because, like, if more than one's there, you're fucked.
Yeah, but Rachel, techno mages, cool or no?
Cool.
You think they're cool?
Yeah.
Mark seems, maybe, but there's a little bit of caution there. I
have fun with them.
I know. I've struggled. I keep wanting... It comes down to the performers that play the techno mages are really good. They're really good. I like this idea of technology being so advanced that it looks like magic, but it actually is technology. Like you said, Mark, it has its dated quality now, but like within the show, they don't pretend like it's actually magic that they're doing. There's like, no, that's a hologram, you know this, but isn't that in a way magic? Isn't this all kind of magical that
I don't know,
we're in space right now on a tin can that's 5 miles long? Like, this is beyond comprehension and what we have become accustomed to it. It's that, remember when you were a child and you thought everything was kind of whimsical and magical and grander than it was? And that's what Sheridan talks about. You lose that a little bit.
Once upon a time, you believed in Santa.
Yeah, once upon a time, you believed in all these things. But as you become more familiar with how a clock ticks and how it works, it loses that magic to it. And I think that is more core to it than we know that they use holograms to make this happen, and that an equation spell is actually just a computer virus, that type of deal.
Yeah. I like that aspect of it. I like how they talk about, like, like it is sort of marvelous in a way, like this tin can floating in space. And I guess it touches on, like, our modern relationship with technology, where most people don't understand how things work.
Yeah.
I think a lot of my problem with the techno mages in this is just how they're described. It's like they're described as using technology to create the appearance of magic. It makes them sound like stage magicians.
Yeah. They're wizards.
Yeah.
My struggle is similar, where I want to buy it, but then somebody will say a holo demon or equation spell, and I just want to I just hold my breath and silently say to myself, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, you don't want explanations. You just want it to be mysterious. You can have like the holo demons or whatever, but just don't tell us that they're holograms. Just let it be like mysterious.
But also just the phrase equation spell.
It's really lame.
You can't get past that.
And I am not a fantasy person. Mark, Rachel, you know this. Yeah. I have a very low tolerance for fantasy. Even though science fiction is way out there, I like how science fiction explains itself with its version of magic.
And you don't like it when they don't, when they're like, oh, it is just magic.
And I don't like the vernacular of fantasy as much as I prefer technobabble compared to spell babble.
Yeah.
And so when he says equation spell rather than equation, like a virus, computer virus, I go, shut up. I'm watching a fantasy. I'm not watching a fucking Lord of the Rings show. I'm not watching The Witcher right now, right? I'm watching Babylon 5, in which this guy's doing paperwork over here. This lady's explaining, and that's why I have this internal struggle, because I like their aesthetic. I like the idea. I like the performers that play the techno mages. And I do like that it isn't saying it is magic. Because if Babylon 5, a show that is very science fiction-y and grounds itself in lots of things that we know, just had characters that were magical, it would break the universe of the show. Because even the Shadows and the Vorlons, they explain what they are with their tech. They have organic technology, and they have this, and they have this, and we explain how telepaths came to be through genetic manipulation, and everything is explained through a lens of science fiction. But there are some mystical elements here and there, of course, but if you just had walking around real-life wizards in this show, I would throw my hands up and go, what the fuck is this? What the fuck are you talking about? So I do appreciate, again, to give them credit, I like that he's still tying it back to a sci-fi idea to keep it grounded in the show. So it's not flying off into whimsy land too much. But again, they have staffs. They call themselves wizards.
Yeah.
I just want to grab them and say, shut up, you idiots.
Oh, you just have such a green perspective about this.
I'm rather a soul hunter. They just are what they are. They hunt souls. Okay, got it. But that's where I come down on techno mages. Many people love them. I love them. Many people hate them. I've been in that camp too. Sometimes shut up, I don't want you, Technomage. And that also comes from the fact that in the TV show spin-off Crusade, one of the main characters is a Technomage. His name is Galen, and he speaks like a fucking fantasy character the entire time, and he's very good. The performance, very good, and very well written, but it is that thing of, no, please, I know what show I'm tuned into, but that Crusade is far more fantastical. I mean, the ship's called Excalibur, for fuck's sake.
It is within that ambiguity that my brothers and I exist. We are dreamers, shapers, singers, and makers. We study the mysteries of laser and circuit, crystal and scanner, holographic demons and invocations of equations. These are the tools we employ, and we know many things.
Are we ready to do the spotlight section in which we talk about an actor that appeared in this episode, talk about what we know them from, what we thought about them in this episode, and any interesting little facts we picked up along the way? Who are we discussing in this one, Rachel?
I forgot to save his fucking name.
Good one. It's in the description.
I saved all of these fucking details and not the dude's name. Oh.
Michael and Sarah, you mean?
Yeah.
So you want to write that down?
So we are looking at the main Technomage. Elric, who is performed by Mark?
Michael and Sarah.
And Sarah.
And do you want to start with the discussion of what we thought of his performance, and then I'll give some facts. Factoids.
Like I only touch upon it briefly again, is the Technomage thing, like with many of these sci-fi or fantasy ideas, hinges on the performance. And I think he brings it. I think this guy's great. I think he makes me believe in everything he says. He makes me believe that he's this weird wizard man with technology. He makes it work. If another actor came in and they dropped the ball, I would forever be mocking Technomages, just like I mock other silly things in this show, like Vickers, for instance, right? Where it's like human VCRs, do you get it? Vicar, and it's shut up. And so I really liked his performance. I loved his voice. He could read anything to me and I would listen to it. He was very, very charming, very ominous. I thought he delivered these lines very well, because also JMS has a certain way of writing lines that certain actors really know how to deliver. And I think this guy, for a guest spot performance, one and done, he leaves a memorable mark. As we've discussed, is the Technomages in B5 only exist in this episode, and one of the core reasons that we remember them is because of this guy's performance. What did you think of him, Mark?
Yeah, I liked his performance. I don't have as much to say about it. I haven't studied sort of like acting or anything.
I haven't either, but that doesn't stop me from talking out of my ass about it. So
you can stroke.
Don't let that stop you.
You can stroke your chin and go, "Ooh, yes." Did you have a favorite scene with him?
I mean, it has to be the one where he's like, warning Londo, like, I see a great hand reaching out, and like that definitely stands out.
I love the one with Via, though. I think that is my favorite scene of his, but the scolding of Londo with the hologram in his hand is mwah.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic.
You guys we all have a different one. Mine is when he's talking to Sheridan, when he's walking around the bazaar or wherever it is, and they're talking about magic and what the Technomages are, and
hands him the cherry, the orange blossom.
You get a cherry blossom, an orange blossom.
I don't know why. I just think of cherry blossoms, not orange blossoms. So my brain is like blossom plus fruit must be cherry.
And would you agree with this? The guy has a look to him physically where he doesn't look silly in this outfit. He looks like he would wear this. He has this.
Yep.
He's wearing the outfit. The outfit isn't wearing him, which is
not what happened to David Warner in Mbryo.
It's a struggle sometimes to get that right. And it does. it takes a particular skill of a performer to do that as well.
So I think we all agree, Rachel, if you want to touch more so upon what you thought about his performance and what else we would maybe recognize him in and any interesting facts. You did some good digging on this guy. He has a plethora of things. I'm sure that maybe some of the things you'll touch on, Mark, you'll be like, oh, okay, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He's been around the block, this guy.
It's good. He's really good, and I think he brings a lot to it. And I agree with what you said, Ryan, with like, if he wasn't so good in this role, techno majors would be laughable.
Oh yeah,
like it's just that. And I think we've touched on the qualities of his performance throughout our discussion as well.
Yeah.
So he was born in 1922 in Syria, and when he was 2, he moved to the US.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
And he passed away in 2013. He was still living in California at the time, and he passed away sadly due to complications due to Alzheimer's.
And he was 91 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
22 to... 1922 to 2013.
He lived a long life,
Yeah.
That's
he ended up with 198 credits on IMDb.
Is he the one with the most credits we've had? That's a guest star character?
Yeah, I think he has to be up there because he started working around 22. His first credit was Action in Arabia as Harrid, though he was uncredited. His first official credit was Zubal in Queen Esther.
Okay.
That came out in 1948.
Jeez, he was in there for ages, huh?
Yeah. And his 3 trademarks that are on IMDb are his deep, authoritative voice, which we've acknowledged. We've kind of talked around this other trademark, but it's definitely present in this performance. Often plays brooding, menacing villains.
He was a Klingon in Star Trek, Mark.
Kang.
Kang. He was Kang, who was in the original series, Voyager, and Deep Space Nine as Kang in all of them. He's one of the few actors who got to do that.
There's less than 10 at the moment that have done that.
Yeah, he's one of those guys in Deep Space Nine, for instance, where there was a bunch of Klingons that came back, and it was all those original actors, and they have the new Klingon design, and they never explain it other than, they just look different. And then in Voyager, it's the episode where Janeway and co travel back in time to hang out with Sulu, and they're dealing with Kang and co, and it's just one of those little things of, okay, this guy here, remember, Babylon 5 got science fiction legends, big and small. So they have Walter Koenig as Mr. Bester. He was obviously in Star Trek. And they get people like this guy who, he was in The Outer Limits. He was in Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
So much shit. He actually managed to do a mix of TV, movies, and movies which is very impressive. And
yeah, I'm going to question Mark on one thing. So, Mark, this guy talked in the episode a lot. And so he did a lot of voice acting later in life. And he did a voice of a Batman villain.
Who do you think it was?
I feel like I can't answer this because I literally just looked at his Wikipedia page.
Oh, you did? You know?
You cheated.
He's Mr. Freeze.
Of course, yeah.
He's Mr. Freeze. I don't know why Babylon 5 has random Batman animated series actors in it a lot, but it does. Later on, we'll get fucking Alfred in the show, so I don't know what's going on here.
Do you want to hear his last trademark, which is...
Sexy?
No. It's not admirable and a little bit
What?
Often played Native American characters.
That's interesting. I guess because he was Syrian, so he had ethnicity enough to not have to play, I guess, okay.
I'm I get it.
It was a different time.
And he acted in a lot of Westerns that, you look at and you're like, oh boy.
Yeah.
That's some racism on screen.
One of the things I learned was he was from Syria and he was of Lebanese descent, and he would often get trademarked in his acting thing as the man from Egypt. He was Egyptian man, has no connections to Egypt. No connection. Yeah. But this was in his time where you look at this guy and you
was
go...
in The Egyptian.
Yeah.
As Hitty Commander.
This is in a time, and let's not pretend that this time has ended, where he has a certain look and the Hollywood industry goes, you're Egyptian, or you're going to play Native American, and you're going to be this, even though he's not. It's just one of those things. It's interesting. Who was he married to? This is one of the ones that blew my socks off, because one of the previous episodes we found out that Catherine Sakai was married to Hutch from Starsky and Hutch, the original TV show. So this guy has something similar here, where he was married to a certain someone.
He was married to Jeannie from I Dreamed of Jeannie.
Okay.
Right?
Barbara Eden.
You weren't fucking expecting that, were you?
You didn't see that on the Wikipedia page. You didn't look that far.
And guess what? He was in I Dream of Jeannie a couple of times as another genie, as a djinn. He played, and of course, you see that now. When you look at him, you're like, of course you've played that.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could.
Of course. It was a combination of his entire career, probably.
Also on brand for him, he in the 1978 TV movie of Doctor Strange. At least I'm assuming that it's the same Doctor Strange.
Maybe.
He is the voice of an ancient one.
Of course.
And he's uncredited as it. And I'm like, yes, that voice. Ancient alien race, yes.
We know JMS to have liked certain properties of the past, Star Trek, The Outer Limits, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., and then later JMS wrote for Murder, She Wrote, the television show. He was a writer on that for a season or two. And so we've noticed over this show is he has lots of actors that he's brought in, even if there were one or two guest spot characters in those shows, he brings them into Babylon 5 because he saw them when he was growing up, or he was on a TV show that he was on. Now, he didn't write and he wasn't in the season for when this guy appeared on Murder, She Wrote, but it is just another connection. So this is an actor who he's been a part of other shows that we've seen other actors be parts of too, or leads of. This guy never was necessarily the lead in these shows. He was always just like the guest guy. But it is something to note down that if you were creating a television show, you would want to, as the nerdy people we are, you ideally want to have these people that you've grown up with be in your show. And this was a good example of how to properly utilize this guy, because this guy has this ominous feeling to him, this kind of mystical, otherworldly thing, and you get him as the techno mage, and he makes it not stupid. He makes it not silly. He makes it feel as if this is a guy giving a genuine performance, not a guy picking up a check, or not a guy being worn by the outfit rather than him wearing the outfit. Because also, like, his outfit is like this black thing with just a little bunch of like silver strings on it or whatever. And it's like, okay.
It's so random.
It's so LOL random.
Aha, but he's willing to pay.
Money is also irrelevant. Where we are going, it will do us no good.
Let me put this another way. If I go back without a yes, the personal consequences will be profoundly unfortunate. Okay?
And if you try to force us to walk where we do not choose to walk, the consequences will even be more unfortunate.
What are we going to rate this episode? Our rating system is impeccable. We give it a yum, meaning bad, or yum yum being good. No in-betweens. There's no half measures allowed.
No half yums.
No half yums are allowed.
But you can skirt the rules if you really think about it. So, Mark.
Don't make him think about it. He has to decide yum or yum yum. Mark,
hey, you've let other guests bend the rules.
They figured it out on their own. Mark is new. He hasn't listened to the podcast that much, so he doesn't know how to rig the system unless he's super smart, and I don't want to put that pressure on him. Mark's here to have fun, not to be smart.
Mark, sorry.
That's asking a lot, expecting me to be smart.
Yeah. I mean, he's wearing glasses right now. He looks smart, but is he?
Hey,
I don't know.
He has a literary quote tattoo. Give him
there
a
you
break.
Go. Mark, yum or yum yum?
I'd give it a yum yum.
Yum yum.
It's a fun episode. There's a lot of fun things in it. A lot of things that you remember.
Yeah. I am on the same wavelength here. I give it a yum yum.
Yum yum.
It runs smoothly together. I have basically no issues with the episode that I can think of. Although it isn't a truly outstanding one to me, it does the job very well.
Yep. Yum yum for me too.
Yum yum.
But, Rachel, I'm keen to know what we'll be talking about next time on Babylon 5.
On the next Babylon 5.
We are watching the next episode of season 2. Imagine that. So we are
Oh my God.
episode 4, entitled A Distant Star.
I remember this episode.
No ship lost in hyperspace has ever been recovered, but Sheridan is determined to try because his longtime friend Captain Jack Maynard, played by Russ Tamblyn, is at the helm of the distressed explorer vessel.
Well, the captain is played by Russ Tamblyn, who was Dr. Jacoby in Twin Peaks. The crazy psychiatrist guy with
wow.
the 3D.
Yeah.
Your reaction is basically how I react every time I watch it because he's not playing a weirdo. And I'm like, oh.
The guy
It's even weirder returning to that performance
with the 3D
after.
glasses.
is he the guy with the shovel? Is he the shovel?
Yes.
guy?
Yes, he's the guy
I
who
was
shovels you out of the ship.
Yeah, that's like it makes it weirder when you're
I can't
rewatching
wait.
it after the return came out.
I can't wait to return to that episode of B5. So, in the meantime, people, you can find us on all those social medias. We're on all of them. It's in the description. Just look up YumYumPodcast or YumYumPod. We're always posting. We're always having a wonderful time. You can email us as well at where, Rachel?
YumYumPod@gmail.com. And we did mention that Mark is an artist, so if he wants to plug his
do you have
art
anything to plug?
Instagram.
Do you have an art Instagram to plug?
I have a cooking Instagram.
Oh, really? I'm not on this cooking Instagram. Okay, I've got to write this down. Okay, go.
Well, it's food in the time of COVID.
Oh.
Underscores dividing the words.
Okay. I didn't know this.
No.
This is a surprise.
I knew about
It was a lockdown thing.
But fair enough. I think it describes itself.
Lockdown hobby. Yeah.
Well, there you go. But so we'll include that in the description as well for some fun times. We have also got a Patreon in which we do bonus exclusive content on there. We also have a group Discord you can be a part of if you join. We have different tiers. Once a month we watch one of the X-Men movies. Mark reacted with a grimace. Why the X-Men movies? Because we finished all the Star Trek movies and we didn't want to say goodbye to Patrick Stewart's face. So we had to go to the X-Men movies. And Babylon 5 gets compared.
What about the Emoji Movie?
Oh, well, that's next. Where's that cinematic franchise?
We did Galaxy Quest as the bonus episode.
The last Star Trek movie.
So maybe Emoji Movie.
The best Star Trek movie.
The best Star Trek movie of all time. So we've done a plethora of content on there. We're going through the bottom 5 and top 5 rated episodes of Star Trek at random. So one episode will be the best, one episode will be one of the worst. And so we'll go from Code of Honor to Yesterday's Enterprise within a flash, and it just hurts my eyes to go from the racist episode to one of the best. So come join us. It's a fun time. Until then, Mark, it was such a pleasure to have you on here and to make you come back to the world of Babylon 5. And as a custom that we say here as a farewell, because Jakar said it one time in the entire show.
Yep. Good eating to you.
Good eating to you, Mark.
And good eating to you.